Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I'm going to be in conversation with somebody fascinating from within industry who's going to talk about the whole concepts of the copious volumes of data that organizations across sectors are generating and how his organization is increasingly helping industry leverage that data, assimilate that data, aggregate that data on the cloud to bring it to a logical conclusion of making business insights and strategic insights out of the whole concept of data. Please put your hands together for Murad Wag from Snowflake. Murad, welcome, sir. Delighted as always.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Same here.
Thank you. Murad, we've got an interesting 18 odd minutes ahead of us, and I intend to make the full use of it. Murad, I started off by stating the very fact that the volumes of data that organizations are generating today is unprecedented, to use a cliche of sorts. And while this data promises millions of opportunities, there are also challenges of how you aggregate the data in a in a cohesive, comprehensive manner so that you're really able to make the best use of the data that you are generating so that it actually becomes a digital asset. In that sense, what is your outside in perspective, given your spectrum of view within industry from Snowflake's point of view, sir?
I think that's a great question, and I like the term data as a digital asset. Data is the new oil, data is the new cash and the currency. We all keep talking about that, right? But making that a reality is not the easiest of things. And we've realized exactly to what you said, right? Enterprises today, have unfortunately run into these silos of data, and this has happened organically over a period of time, right? There are applications that generate data. There are these SaaS applications. There are infrastructure as a service providers that eventually start generating a lot of data, and all of this unfortunately sits in different silos.
Indeed.
Now, where Snowflake helps is exactly to your point of assimilating all of this into a single common platform. And this grand vision is what we call the data cloud. In simple words, it's the ability to create a platform which allows you to get all of this data, whether it is structured, semi structured, unstructured, from different kinds of applications into one place on this fantastic platform called Snowflake, and then have the ability to run different data workloads, as we call it, on top of that platform. So it could be data warehouse, that's where we started, but running data lakes, data science, data engineering, all of these different workloads. And then, very interestingly, start sharing this data with other stakeholders. And which is why we call it a data cloud, right? The ability to take that data and be able to share it without the complexity, without being too concerned about governance and security, is what Snowflake does.
And I'm
So the
presuming when you
performance,
mention, well,
yeah.
Murad, with your permission, I'm presuming that when you mentioned the ability for Snowflake's platform to assimilate data in its structured, unstructured, or semi-structured formats, you're also allowing organizations the ability to couple and converge external data that they would procure externally to be able to add on to this data lake, isn't it?
Absolutely. So there's this fantastic thing called the Snowflake Data Marketplace, where there are close to 1100 odd data sets around weather, demographics, financial industry, that you can literally start consuming from day one inside your account. So we call it first party data, which is your own data, second party data, which is your partner, supplier data, and then this very critical third party data, which you're able to marry together to get some real rich insights very, very quickly.
So interesting, because then the natural question that comes to anybody's mind, Murad, is this whole concept of if data promises so many opportunities, it also brings with it complexities at a level that we perhaps don't understand, not least of all of them being security. The whole concept of how resilient is my data? And therefore, I worry that organizations will increasingly look towards your data platform at Snowflake to be able to equally ensure the security around the whole concept. Because for them, it is existential in nature. What's your take on that, Murad?
And you're right, that's exactly what we see a lot of customers doing, right? And today, with Snowflake, and I'll talk about this a little more in detail, customers can easily analyze years of log data, control their SIEM costs, and unify all of this data that is spread across many point solutions. And now remember, we are talking about security solutions, right? So there's an antivirus, there are firewalls, there are so many systems out there, different point solutions. Now we have the ability to get all of that data literally into one place and easily analyze all of this data. So what we've seen, Arjun, is a lot of leading organizations today adopting this entire architecture called a security data lake,
Okay.
right? And this is essentially a single place for all cybersecurity and compliance data to be stored together. Now, the advantage is that with Snowflake's cloud-built, multi-clustered shared data architectures, organizations can really efficiently store years of data. And this is semi-structured log data, right? Security log data that we're talking about, and scale compute resources up or down automatically or on the fly to meet the needs of your security analysts, right? Now, what happens is that you get three benefits out of this. The first one is that you get complete visibility across all of these different data sets, which means in case there's an incident, you have the ability to investigate the entire timeline of that incident across the full breadth of the high volume log sources. And these include your firewalls, servers, network traffic, your public cloud sources, all of that, and your SaaS applications. Then, like I said earlier, you have the ability to limit your SIEM costs and your licensing, right? So what you can do now is send only data from high value logs to those SIEMs and then stream all the data from the rest of your security infrastructure to the security data lake, which is Snowflake. This allows you to save a lot on your license fees and operational overhead as well, while meeting your compliance requirements because your data is stored securely in a data lake. And finally, you can improve your cybersecurity posture because now with Snowflake, there are a few cybersecurity partners that help deliver capabilities like threat detection, threat hunting, anomaly detection, threat intelligence, vulnerability management, so on and so forth, as services on top of this security data lake.
Interesting. Interesting, Murad, because you touched upon two very, very important points that I was anyways planning to bring into this conversation. And I'm going to come to the first. The first one essentially being, Murad, and we did speak about it, I think, some time back, which is that with as many tools that are available in the cybersecurity or the cyber resilience realm today, organizations with increased cybersecurity budgets are obviously investing that much more uh, in order to create the perception of safety.
Correct.
But I think one of the challenges that CIOs and CISOs are increasingly also talking to me about when I do chat with them is their ability or the lack of an ability to balance capability versus complexity. Because the more tools you're throwing into the ecosystem, that much more complexity. So in that sense, Murad, how does Snowflake sit in that in the midst of all the churn that's happening in the CISO's ecosystem today?
I think that's a great question, and you're right. We've discussed this before, right? Just throwing more tools at the problem doesn't
Doesn't
necessarily
solve
solve
the
it.
problem.
It just adds complexity. In fact, a lot of organizations are now actually relooking at their security landscape and trying to identify, can I reduce this tool set
Yeah, do I
down to
really need it?
it is. It is. Right. So you're right. And with the security data lake, the advantage is that you're not adding one more tool. In fact, you're helping the cause by literally bringing all of that data into one place so that multiple of these tools can act on the same copy of data.
Okay.
So again, you're getting rid of all of those silos, and I'll take a minute to explain what we do in this space, right? So essentially we support three capabilities, if you call it that, right? One is incident response, then there's threat detection, and finally we talk about security metrics. And I'll talk a little bit about each of these, right?
Please, please, please.
So when you talk about incident management, what's important is that you should have the ability to look at the full timeline of the incident. In short, the ability to reconstruct that incident, right? So this allows the analyst to really understand the complete picture of an incident by joining the high volume log data that comes in, and given that it's all in one location, makes it so much more easier. And then efficiently analyzing years of log data in seconds, which is where the compute performance of Snowflake really comes into picture. You need that ability to search really fast, scale up the resources on the fly, and pay exactly for that, right? So that's the true consumption model. Again, with Snowflake, there's lesser need for you to load that data into expensive SIEM solutions. You can
Precisely.
scale instantly. You've got near infinite resources because this is on the cloud, and it takes you literally minutes to scan years of log data and look at capabilities like threat hunting and incident response. And finally, a lot of this newer modern log data today is available in what we call native JSON format. And this JSON format is something that we can natively ingest into Snowflake. and you don't need to convert it into structured data and so on, right? So you can now join traditional structured enterprise data with this semi-structured JSON data in one single security data lake. So you can get started very quickly without the standard rigmarole of, indexing your data, vacuuming it, and so on. You just get your data in there, transform it, run your queries, and you've got ready incident response capabilities directly out of the security data warehouse.
And I'm presuming this automatically also converges with your overall artificial intelligence and machine learning infused capabilities at the data cloud level itself.
It does, and that's a great question because we've also seen a lot of customers use capabilities like Python. These are functional languages that they want to write and extract data and transform that data and so on. So you could use functional languages, you could use AI, ML mechanisms as well to forecast what this could potentially look like from a security posture standpoint. Secondly, we talk about threat detection, right?
Indeed.
Now you have the ability to build better threat detection rules because your logs and your enterprise data are now in one single system, especially for customers who are already using Snowflake as an enterprise data warehouse already on the cloud. You're just adding security data to it. So it becomes so much more easy for you to marry this data. And now your security data lake can support these detection rules that are potentially not available in your SIM tools, because those are a security only construct. Here it is security and enterprise data together, right? Now at the same time, what you can do is you can partner with threat detection experts. So you can supplement your in-house capabilities to do this threat analytics with XDR and SIM partners that we have to easily and securely share this data from that single copy without having to create silos of data. And this is what I spoke about. This is a real special capability of the platform to share that data without creating silos of data that quickly go out of sync. And finally, you can build your own SIM. You could partner with XDR and SIM providers to build out your own SIM based on your custom rules that you need. This gives you significant flexibility from a cybersecurity team standpoint.
Interesting, Murad, because I think what struck me, and I've obviously done my reading up about Snowflake, is also that with Snowflake's data cloud and of course now the data security lake, you're almost bringing organizations to that statement that we used to make about 3 years back, saying with data you've got to be digitally native or cloud first in your approach. Otherwise, you're not making the best use of it.
Correct.
But with a cloud kind of an orchestration, specifically, Murad, when you look at a lot of workload repatriation that's happening to an on-prem kind of a situation today, because folks are going through their own churn. There are also concerns in fiscal prudence, Murad. In that sense, what is Snowflake's posture on the fiscal prudence and the fiscal sensibility of all of this, of investing in Snowflake's platform?
A lot, a lot. And I think that's a very, very pertinent question because while we are talking about all of these fantastic capabilities, that thing around fiscal prudence, cost optimization is a
There's only
conversation that
finite money at the end of the day.
absolutely, absolutely. And again, Snowflake is a platform that's built to take advantage of the consumption model. So, in
Okay.
very simple terms, Arjun, this is a platform where you end up paying for exactly what you consume. So, if there's X terabytes of storage that's of data that's stored on Snowflake in a compressed format, that's what you end up paying for. And compute is even more special because it is charged on a per second basis. And you can scale it up on demand and scale it down when you don't need it. And you pay exactly when the compute is live and working on data, which means you
Classically, you're saying I could even start with something as low as maybe 500 to $1,000.
lesser.
Lesser,
There's no entry
perhaps.
barrier. There's no entry barrier absolutely to Snowflake. So you could start off saying, here's my small investment. This is one use case that I want to pick up. And we're seeing a lot of interest around this entire security topic, right? So we've got customers who are saying, we want to start small with one specific use case. Here's the amount of data that we need to load. But we anticipate that potentially here's where we will grow to. Now, can your platform scale? Can the compute scale? The answer is a definite yes. But you could start small to talk about your point around the fiscal prudence of the platform.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more, but I do have a view on the clock, Murad, which is why it brings me, and I think as we wind down this conversation, Murad, it is perhaps pertinent to ask you, Snowflakes, by that sense of the word, relatively young. In that sense, how do you play partners in progress to industry? And what's your storyline and your narrative as you move ahead into the next 24 to 36 months, or maybe the next 3 years, which are going to be very, very critical for industry to be able to resolutely, and I say this in a considered fashion, resolutely accelerate its growth journey?
Again, a great question, and we've got a very, very rich ecosystem of partners, Arjun. But I'm going to limit this conversation to our topic around security, right? Given the event and
Indeed.
what we are
Indeed.
talking about. So I think the opportunity for partners that deal with the XDR and SIEM space, partners like Securonix, Hunter.ai, Panther, I think is fantastic, especially when it comes to the security lake data use case. And I'll talk a little bit about the opportunity, right? Today, we've seen, and I'm sure you've heard this from other CISOs as well, a lot of organizations find out about security breaches only after being notified by enforcement agencies, right? We've been hit. Now, how do we fix this? And that makes it critical for security teams to improve their threat detection capabilities. In short, the ability to be proactive, right? Now, rather than relying simply on basic search rules and so on, security teams really want to align with threat detection standards like the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? That's like a standard saying, here's how you detect threats typically, and here's how you classify them. Now, what we are increasingly hearing is that sophisticated teams are seeing an opportunity to build a data driven security program that applies advanced analytics across all of these activity logs, asset inventory, configuration data, and visibility metrics. But it's got to be data driven, which
Sure.
is where this entire architecture around the security data lake is gaining so much of prominence. Now, one of the things where we talk about partnerships is that, remember, we are a security data lake. We are not an XDR capability, or we are not an SIEM, right? That is where we partner with the likes of Securonix, Hunter.ai, Panther. These are partners that I spoke about. And this enables the security teams to easily centralize all of this data that they need to achieve that high fidelity, if I could call it, threat detection and investigation. Now, these solutions pull security data from different sources to your instance of Snowflake, and they have these connectors, right, to different firewall systems and all of that. This is what they've been so good at for the past so many years. So they have the ability to pull in data, but now instead of storing data in some open source storage or on cloud storage, they get that data and pump it into the security data lake,
Indeed.
which is the Snowflake layer. And this is where it can be combined with your regular enterprise data resources. Married, you can do joins, you can do data sharing, you can use the very powerful compute that has the ability to scale up and scale out on demand, all of that goodness of the security data lake. And this finally gives them immediate insights into threats that span across the entire enterprise, while also having the ability to customize things like alerts and dashboards to fit their unique security requirements.
Very, very fascinating, because it does then classically and very logically bring me to the last question, Murad, which is that Snowflake Security Data Lake the power that it enables industry to is only as strong as the innovation and the learnings at Snowflake that you manifest onto innovation in terms of your security data lake solutions. We'd really like to understand what are the kind of innovation we can expect from Snowflake in the security data lake space over the next few years, both globally as well as, of course, for India for sure.
Well, there are things that I can talk about and things that I can't. But
Indeed.
I'm going to talk about some very exciting capabilities that are coming into the platform, uh, both from a security data lake as well as a generic data platform capability. I think the one that I'm really excited about are two. One is this entire concept of a development framework called Snowpark, because
Right.
today increasingly, even with security, right, you have a lot of developers who write their own code, who want to analyze security events and make inferences out of it, right? Talk about AI ML models and so on, not just pertaining to business but even to security. We're just making that entire process so much more simpler, allowing you to run functional languages like Python, Java, and Scala right inside the platform, instead of you going into the platform, taking data out,
Indeed.
processing it, and writing it back again, hairpinning all of that data. You just run your code inside the platform. Makes it so much more super efficient. So that's something that we are significantly investing from an innovation standpoint. And then there is this capability, I briefly spoke about it, called the data marketplace.
Indeed.
I really think that's a game changer, because the ability to get third party data, again, there are a lot of security providers who put up their data around sites that uh, are not great, blocked IP addresses and so on. These are all data sets that are available on the data marketplace. Now, the advantage is that with Snowflake, the ability to access all of this data without all the traditional complexity with ETL and FTPs and all of that involved is just amazing. I think that's a game changer. So
No,
these are
I
two
agree.
capabilities that I think are really special. The developer framework and the ability to share data and
Indeed.
consume data in a very easy manner.
No, I couldn't agree more with you, Murad. And much as this has been a fascinating conversation, and much as I'd like to continue this is all we have time for in this particular segment. Thank you for taking our time to speak to us at ESCON 2022. It's been a true privilege talking to you, Murad. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arjun. It's a pleasure always talking to you.
Thank you. That is I, Arjun Vishwanathan, in conversation with Murad Wag from Snowflake. That's all from us in this segment. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment.